Hey, welcome to the creative season, another wonderful, fun floral summer watercolor. So I'm so excited. We are going to paint a really loose lap painting of lavender today. I've got a couple of ideas. I think we're going to go with this one, but I'm going to show you some alternatives too. So I want to go ahead and get started really quick, and then we're going to talk about some of the colors and tools that I'm using. Let's go ahead. If you're painting with me today, I have here a 5x7 watercolor paper, and I'm trying to be a little bit better about measuring my paper so that it makes it really easy to frame it or to make it into a card later on for design. So it's about 7 inches of vertical, 5 inches horizontal. And what I'm going to do is with this, I want to create the sense of like the flowers going in the background. So we're going to go ahead and do a very loose wash on the top and then on the bottom. So if you have some colors with me go ahead and grab a pink or a purple permanent rose, dioxazine purple. I'm going to use both, and I actually have our color palette right here. So if you wanted to check that out, I have all the colors that we're using. And I have where it's Hooker's Green Light. That was one I mixed with a little bit of the purple. Then that's the green by itself, a little bit of yellow, just a little bit later on lemon yellow. And then I've got 3 of my really gorgeous colors: dioxazine purple, permanent rose, and quinacridone violet. Now these are all, we'll talk a little bit more about them. You don't need all of them. I just really love to combine them, and I'll show you how I did that. You could always eliminate one of them, and I'll let you know which one I would eliminate if I needed to take out one. So I'm just going to grab my pink. I'm going to take a big brush, and if you have any other colors, make sure to rinse those off. And I'm just going to go unevenly. I don't want this to be, I want it to look as if we're looking where we have the green up these stems and then we're looking out into the field of lavender. I'm then going to grab a little bit of purple and just dab it in, and we're going to let that merge. And if you want to add a little bit more pink, go right ahead. And again, I'm going to go ahead and move this down here. I'm then now going to take the green, so we have a very loose, right in there, very loose coloring. I'm going to take the green and I'm going to do the same thing on the bottom. So if that looks a little bit dark to you, just get some more water and go ahead and loosen it up. Now I'm going to let that one dry. I've got a little bit of a green stain there. I'm just going to move that out. I'm going to let that dry here. I'm also going to go ahead and grab a little bit of green here, and we're going to go right underneath this area so they almost touch. And then if you let a little bit of space there, if you had a bit of a white space, I'm also just going to drop it in right here. And we're going to end up letting that completely dry and then painting over it. I'll show you how I use my pen to do that. So now that we have that, we're going to let that dry, and then we're going to start doing some of lavender stems over in this area. Because as you know, if I try to put watercolor on watercolor, it's just going to, it's all going to merge together. So we don't want to do that quite yet. Okay, let me see here. Now I'm going to go ahead and grab my green. Again, I have the green just basically by itself. I haven't added any purple to it yet. And I'm going to go ahead and start creating some stems. So I'm going to work fairly quickly. I'm going to do stems of all shapes and sizes here. Well, and not when I say all shapes and sizes, that's a little bit wet. So you might, if it's wet there, maybe only go down to the white part, because we do want this crisp. After this completely dries, we will end up going down and then adding more in, as you can imagine. So we're going to go ahead there. I'm going to continue adding different lengths of stems over here. And then even do some that are moving to the side. Maybe there's a breeze coming through. And once I get a number of stems down, I'm going to go ahead, rinse my brush, or use another brush. Really, I have that's my favorite 7 round. I think I have a couple of them. I was running over to my sister's the other day, my mom's. This is a size 2, so this is a bit smaller. And I realized I had forgotten all my brushes, which is really a bummer. So I had to run by Michael's and grab a few. Thankful, and I just grabbed, there's a couple on sale, so I grabbed them and ran. Okay, now for the lavenders. Now, the lavender is really, it's not difficult to paint, which is one of the reasons I love them. Really, it's almost like a chubby V. And we are just going to make chubby V's all the way up. If you can even look on Pinterest. There's certainly different kinds of lavenders. Sometimes they go a little bit more so your V gets more narrow, and we can do that too. So make sure that we don't want to keep it all uniform, right? That's no good. And the really beauty of it, like a lot of all the flowers, is that they're not perfect, right? So it's not perfect. We're not creating really up and down, especially in the fields of lavender. There's winds moving through. So I'm just going to continue on working up. I'm not too concerned about this creating a sense of like a really proper garden per se. This is my really beautiful lavender field. And I'm just moving up and down. Now, as you might think to yourself, okay, what about all these other pinks? As you want to, go ahead and start grabbing the other colors. So I'm going to grab my permanent rose, and then I'm going to just start laying that down too. The idea being too that the closer up the lavender is to us, we're going to see more detail, and the farther away it is, it's going to be a little bit more faded, not so distinct, right? And there's nothing, you're using a couple of different colors to really create a different sense of lavenders in the foreground and the background, smaller, for example. We're also not going to do all of them full size, thinking too that there's probably going to be a lot of lavender that are not quite grown up per se. I'm going to go ahead and do another one here. And then I'm thinking too, I just start adding in more lavenders, and I'll come back and add the greens to it. So you can really spend quite a bit of time. It's really a fun project, and then continue to just work up all your lavender. I'm going to come over here now and just work on this one. I'm going to make this one thinking too that I don't want the whole thing, I don't want them all, like for example, all to come to the middle of the page. I want them to be working in different lengths. That's also going to create a sense of beauty. Now this is going to be a little bit a looser sketch. I am really trying to create the sense of a field of lavender, and so you have a sense of a wildness to it. I was at a couple of weeks ago. There was a couple, maybe about 40 miles northeast. They had what was called Lavender Days at a local farm. And so we went up, my sister and I, my youngest sister and I grabbed her and we went up, and it was a weekend that they were advertising Days of Lavender. And would you know, all the lavender was sold out. They said it sold out in a couple of hours. They had no idea of the attention that they was going to get, but I was so happy. I think everyone, people have been very happy to be out and about and going to things like local farms. Okay, and you can see too how I am just moving around my brush. Again, even with the V's though, I'm letting, see how the color, as we use different colors, and you can pick up some of that magenta. This magenta, the quinacridone violet, it has, this is the violet right here, and that's a beautiful, it's very, it's opaque, right? So you're not going to get the see-throughness of it like the other two colors, which was really nice for the colors up front, for the flowers that are right front and center. And we'll do more of these too as this dries. We'll do some flowers that are very large that are kind of going to be the centerpiece. So you'll see as I move up here, I'll just dip it gets a little bit more blurry because of the wetness. So we're going to back off from doing too much, and instead I'm going to just continue to move around. And you could spend, quite a bit of time on this. And this is one of those paintings that it's actually really fun to come back to. You do work on it a little bit, then come back, and then work on it a little bit more. It actually gives itself more to segmented work. Maybe work on it one evening after work, while you're getting, before you're getting ready for bed, for example, and then you do that a couple nights in a row. Super relaxing way to finish the night. Okay, I'm going to grab my purple. I'm going to touch down here. This is actually getting pretty dry. This is a little bit wet. You can see there was more wetness laid out. I have more water, more in that paint. So I think what I am going to do over here is, see, that's actually looking really nice. So I'm going to create this night, a little bit of a larger flower here. And again, my chubby V's, and then coming up at the top, I'll do some uneven ones. Pinterest is a great way to see some lavender fields or pictures of really gorgeous lavender if you don't have any around. I do have, I did get some dry lavender while I was at the fair, which was really fun. I was very happy to get that, and it's edible. I don't know what makes it edible versus non-edible. I guess if they use pesticides on it, I do not know. But I am excited because I'm going to be making, I think I'm going to try making some lavender scones or maybe some lavender infused honey. I have been seeing some recipes and super excited to incorporate more herbs and even things like lavender into baking and cooking and food preparation. So there's that. All right, so we are just coming down here. Now, if you start to think, gosh, that's looking really pink, no problem. Just come back in, grab some of your purple. Let that, depending on if you want it to dry or if you really want it to, look more purpley, I just stab in. I let that watercolor, the beauty of watercolor is it does a lot of the work for us versus acrylic where you've got to mix everything up separately and lay lots of layers down. Watercolor does have a habit of getting away from us, and yet the beauty of it is it takes up color beautifully, creates such magical colors. All right, so I'm going to be, again, we're thinking too of, this is our lavender field, so the lavender is moving all the way back. So I'm going to come down here, bring this in a little bit so you can see that. Now, if you could come up here, if it's buckling a bit, it's actually pretty dry. So I could also come up here. And if you're watching this, you might be thinking to yourself, this is a really kind of a tedious video, Melissa. And it is a bit, right? But hopefully you're also seeing, if you wanted to do it all in one sitting, you can. You can just kind of continue at it and continue making those beautiful chubby V's all the way down. Now I am going to go ahead, I'm going to get some green in here. I'm going to move this one down. I'm actually going to let the whole thing dry and probably do a little bit of pen work, and I'll show you on the one that I finished just before I started recording this one what I was doing, and then we'll see if it's dry enough that I can continue on. I would love to know if you would like a certain flower that you would like to paint with me. Let me know and put it in the comments. I would absolutely love to hear about it. Also, if you are painting with me, I would love to see your paintings, or I'd love just to see answer any questions you have. So please leave a comment. Don't forget to subscribe as well so you'll always be notified. There's so many videos that are coming out on YouTube, right? So if you hit the subscribe button, it'll pop up in your home screen when I let out a new video. All right, so now I've been really working too to create more flowers and paintings that I can give away as gifts to people and make it easier to frame. So thus I'm working on getting my sizes a little bit more organized here. Okay, let's grab some green. And I've got my brush here, and I'm going to get some green on there. In fact, let's mix a little bit of purple. So I've got my palette here. Let's just take a little bit of purple. I'm going to mix it over here in my green until I'm going to add some more water and move it in just like that. And that soaks up very, very nicely, doesn't it? I'm going to come down here, and right down here, I'm going to just make... That's going to be, they're dark, right? Super dark. They're in our forefront. We want them dark. You might add a little bit of leaves, stems to some of these. I'll bring this down. We're going to continue to add more flowers, of course, but this is going to help us also create that sense of a fullness, right? And I'm just moving through here, also realizing I'm lightening up. I had some flowers back here, and then in the background here, let's go ahead and add in, hopefully you can see that you can, add in some stems back here. Thinking too, this is a field, now this is maybe not one of the fields of Provence where everything's all beautifully in a row. Maybe this is a field that someone had planted beautiful lavender, and it continues to come back, but in a wild sort of way. All right, we've got some stems back there that we can add lavender to as well. Now that's really coming along, and you're getting the sense of a field, right? These are smaller, they're more faded than the ones up front. If you wanted to even add, get some of the regular green that's not so dark, and then go ahead and add some more, and then over here as well. I'm going to add some stems. We'll let those dry. Add some stems to the flowers I was painting. And even adding lighter ones up front too, because depending on the way the light's hitting it, right? Not everything is going to be the same color green. One of the easiest ways to really add, can really create a complex look in your painting is to make sure you have multiple greens and adding that stem work. It makes a huge difference. I don't know if you follow Amy Woods, but I don't think she has a YouTube channel, but her work on Etsy is phenomenal, and on Instagram, and she really uses multiple greens in her stem work, and she teaches her students. She does a number of live classes in a workshop where she lives, and she was telling me that she uses she really works on encouraging students to focus on multiple greens, even though it takes longer, and especially in their stem and leaf work. And I agree, it really adds a lot. That was looking nice. Now we do have white in here. We're not gonna come in and add that color until the very end. And so even what I ended up doing with this one is I let the whole thing dry. We had that white in the middle. I came back here with my pen, as you can see, because I wanted to create a delineation of the different leaves, as well as the different lavender petals. And then I came in, added some more paint, let that dry, and then you can see where I took a wash of some green in some areas and some pink in others, and that created a sense of a really loose watercolor. But the whole thing didn't turn to mud. You can still tell it's a lavender feel. It's very heavy on the pink and purple, as if almost you're not sure if that's the field or the sunset, right? So it could be either one. Now this is going to be a much cleaner picture where I was creating a bouquet of lavender, and we'll be creating a bouquet together of lavender and some other flowers in a YouTube episode, where I like to come back after combining a few different flowers that I've been painting with you guys, and create a bouquet of all the flowers. I think that's just really a lot of fun. So I'm going to come back over here now, if you're painting with me, and again, just in the back, keep these almost dots, right? Because these are smaller, they're in the distance. I didn't do that quite so much with the other one, but I thought with this one, I wanted to take that opportunity to create a sense of being farther away, and another way of creating depth, right? So I've got the pink too, because it's not as if it's a little bit more faded. I might add a little bit of purple, but you don't have to be so conscientious of these per se, right? I can go across my stems and just move them all the way across like that. Isn't that fun? And then you can work it up a little bit. And then just making sure we have dots at the top, but showing, you wouldn't really that far away, we wouldn't necessarily see them individually. Then I can let those dry, because then I can go ahead and paint a little bit larger. I'm not going to paint over that quite yet, because that needs to dry. Otherwise it's going to be muddy. We don't like the muddy. If I can at all avoid the muddy, I surely am going to. So you can see that layering effect. Now we're coming up on that 20-minute mark, and I like to keep these about 20-ish minutes. That way you have enough to go on to finish your painting without this being incredibly long. Okay, so then I'm going to come back. I did want to show you how these are dry enough. So just to give you a hint, I would normally let the whole thing dry. But one thing, like over here, what I will do is let me make sure I don't get things wet, is you can come through and I will just start adding just little marks to show the V. If I'm just wanting to highlight things, and I just want to, again, I'm not outlining things, I'm really just adding little bits of detail in, and then I'll repaint over it. You don't have to do this. This is just something if you want to clean it up, if you feel like it's gotten away from you and you're like, my goodness, it's just a bit messy. You can come back through with that pen, and that really gives this fun sense of just, again, cleaning it up. If you felt like you forgot to there's a lot of color, it feels like it's all a solid stem, you could take a white gel pen too and just add in some highlights. Now I have some yellow, as you can see, right over here, and you're thinking, where did you put the yellow, Melissa? So what I did is I used that yellow. Yellow is a really great way to show highlights. It goes very nicely with both purple and green. Now if you mix yellow and purple, it does turn to gray. It's a great shadow color, but what I do is I get some lemon yellow and water it down a lot. In fact, grab a bigger brush, water it down quite a bit, and then what I would do is I would come through and I would just add in here, I might add up in here just a little bit of yellow, just dotting it through. Showing too where maybe the sun's coming through. I'm going to end up painting over all of this. Maybe if you wanted on your stalks, let's say we had a lot of sun in your painting, I would just use that yellow. and use the yellow in here. It makes things pop, right? You can't even see it very much. It's not like you're going to see an overwhelming amount of yellow, but against the darker colors, it's going to make things pop. I would probably also maybe add it to some green. And then you can see if I even blended it right here as a wash, you can see where I can start blending those colors with the wash, but it's not getting muddy. That lemon yellow works out very, very nicely. So a little bit of pink right there, that moved, but that's okay. So that's what I'm going to be doing with the yellow. And you can see how this is really starting to come along. Again, I'm going to put more color right across there. So I'm going to put more. These are pretty much dry right there. Not totally dry, but dry enough. I can take some of that magenta, and I can first of all come through here, right? I can create some more emphasis using my pinks and purples. This is going to make these guys bolder in here, and that looks lovely. Really nice. And then I can also take the purple, maybe even water it down a bit, and then start adding in out here. If you think, goodness, they're going to start looking like little trees, you know, we can come back and do pen work for that. And then again, I'm going to be emphasizing these guys will be the main focus, right? So while these ones are looking faded, I'm going to come back and emphasize these ones and give them some more detail and some more color, just like I did over here with this one, where I really I came back in with these guys in here and focused on them. So that is a beautiful field of lavender. I hope you enjoyed that. I would love to see yours. I'm going to let this dry, and then I'm going to finish up so it doesn't turn into a muddy mess. And I will see you soon for another beautiful watercolor for floral class with you.